Now turn up.
What up is Marcus, and we are going to be doing the MVPs at each and every position here for Fantasy Football of 2021. And I'll give you my little Super Bowl crystal ball, my predictions here. All right, we actually have two for quarterbacks, two for running backs, two for wide receivers, one for tight end, just because I couldn't help myself. We're going to be starting off at quarterback. We're going to be doing the first quarterback, the GOAT, Mr. Tom Brady. And he's right now being QB9. He is 71st overall in ADP. And Tom Brady is going to be a guy that he was a top 6 quarterback the second half of last year. He had Antonio Brown for part of that year. He didn't have a running game for many parts of the last year. I mean, it was just not a mess, but Bruce Arians' offense shows that the second year is the big year for the quarterback there. And so that's why I'm looking at Tom Brady in 2021, that he's going to have a big increase in production. Not even a big increase, just a slight increase in production. Like a QB5, QB4 season, I think that is easily within the realm of possibilities. He's going to throw for a ton of yards. He's got Antonio Brown. He's got Chris Godwin. He's got Mike Evans. He's got Gronk. He's got Brady. He's got O.J. Howard. He's got everybody. He's got Giovanni Bernard. He's going to be throwing in a bunch like James White. He's going to be an awesome quarterback. And next up, we have Trevor Lawrence. So Trevor Lawrence, he is QB 14, and out of the last couple QB, the one-on-ones, the quarterback, the first overall pick, and they finished above 13 and better. So you were looking at a QB that you're probably looking at his baseline for his rookie year. And I'm telling you that this guy, the reason why people are saying that he's not crazy athletic, I compare him a lot to athleticism of Josh Allen, who's rushed for 6 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns last year. We're talking about a guy, Trevor Lawrence, who's not being called super athletic for basically 2 reasons. And those real reasons are 1, Trey Lance, and 2, Justin Fields. Those guys are extremely mobile, and Trey Lance especially extremely mobile, 1,000-yard rusher in college. Now, Trevor Lawrence wasn't, but he had almost 1,000 yards in his collegiate career when it comes to Clemson. This guy can run a 4.6 40. If you watched him, I believe it was in the 2019, one of the bowl games, he ran and broke off like a 70-yard touchdown run. This guy can actually run. And so one of my biggest things is I think Trevor Lawrence at QB 14, you're going to get a baseline of QB 14. So if you're one of those last teams to pick a quarterback in 2021 for your team, Trevor Lawrence is one of those picks that I am definitely targeting. I'm taking him. I'm taking like a Tannehill, like those type of quarterbacks. I think are going to be a really good combo together. All right, so now to running backs. We are going to go with Antonio Gibson. Why Antonio Gibson? Why? Because the guy is just amazing. When we talk about a guy who coming out of college was primarily a wide receiver and had minimal touches, I said that he could be Kamara-ish. In the fact that I feel like he is such a good athlete and running back combination, and he has the size and ability and really everything it needs to be a running back one. They've already talked to him about being potentially the next CMC in Ron Rivera's offense. And I believe that Antonio Gibson, who right now is being the 16th player off the board, but I've gotten him later than that. I actually got him at the end of the second. I got him right in the beginning of the 3rd round. I had 2 running backs, and I was like, I can't pass up. I can't have Antonio Gibson on every league. And I'm like, apparently I can. Because people right now are kind of down a little bit on Antonio Gibson. They hear all the mutterings of these other players, especially like Austin Eckler, and they see the Najee Harris. They see all these other running backs. But Antonio Gibson, in my opinion, is going to be an excellent running back, an easy RB1. In fact, a guy that could finish RB2, 3 overall, and we would not be surprised, especially into that Washington offense. Another running back we're going to go with, and we're going to start with going a little bit later players, but it's Gus Edwards. He's 68th, RB28, and I don't know if his ADP is really caught up with him quite yet, but Gus Edwards is a guy who ultimately his yards per carry has been pretty well. He's a guy that we thought was going to be a really good backup for J.K. Dobbins. And now that he has that field to himself, yes, I'm including that with Le'Veon Bell or Tyson. I don't think either of those running backs will be enough to take a load off. I think it's going to be Lamar. I think it's going to be Gus Edwards, and you're going to see a lot of them. And I think you're going to see Gus Edwards surprise a lot of people. Now, what you have to understand with Gus Edwards is his limited upside. He's not going to receive a ton of balls, which is fine because Mark Andrews and Lamar doesn't really pass a ton. You're going to see probably a 10, 12 touchdown running back in Gus Edwards, and you're going to see a guy that runs for 70, 80 yards a game, potentially even like 100 yards a game. You're going to see a guy that's 1,600 yards, and you're going to be like, what the heck? And it's just because they're going to use him a ton. That's what Baltimore does. That's what Pittsburgh does. That's what they're notorious for, is using that running game to their advantage. And they don't really have any other bodies. San Francisco does the same thing, but they have like 3-4 running backs. Now let's go to wide receivers. These are 2 wide receivers I absolutely love. They're both sophomore wide receivers, but I feel like they're being a little bit disrespected at this point. And in fact, I actually drafted both of them in one league, which was actually super fun in redraft because I get to put my money where my mouth is. Jeudy, he is 69th overall right now. And I feel like if you look at a sophomore receiver that had a under 50% catch rate on his targets, a guy that had over 100 targets, target range right around CeeDee Lamb and right around Justin Jefferson. And you can see where they're being drafted right now. 2nd round, 3rd round for Justin Jefferson, and then CeeDee Lamb. And right now, Jeudy is being drafted in the 6th round. I mean, like, that's just, it's kind of a disrespectful thing. And I think part of that is Teddy Bridgewater. But if he can throw catchable balls, you were talking about a wide receiver that is not going to be 30th, 35th. He's going to be a wide receiver 18 or even a little bit higher. Even I think Sutton's going to have a decent role in that offense. But I think Jeudy is going to take a huge step forward. He creates a ton of separation. We just really didn't see much with Drew Lock being such an inaccurate quarterback. So I think that is going to be a big change there. The next guy that we have on the docket here is Chase Claypool. And this is the kind of the opposite of Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy, I think, is going to be a solid receiver, but I don't think he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver. Chase Claypool has every ability to be that, and that's kind of why I like them together. You have Jerry Jeudy, who I think is going to be just a solid receiver week in and week out, and he's going to end up at wide receiver 18. Chase Claypool could have 14, 15 touchdowns, or he could have a wide receiver 4 finish, and we wouldn't be surprised because of his high upside. But he also has a decent safe floor because he is just a really good wide receiver and a really good athlete in general. I mean, we talk about metrics that are compared to kind of Megatron, but Megatron light. No one's ever Megatron, but Megatron light or DK Metcalf light. We're talking about athletes that are very, very elite at their position. And so I think he could see a DK Metcalf type jump where DK Metcalf was a good wide receiver, went to a almost number 1 wide receiver for the first 8 weeks. And so Chase Claypool could easily be a top 6, 7 wide receiver. And yes, I am saying that even with Deontay, with Juju, I really like the Pittsburgh offense in general. And Big Ben is still a quarterback that has an arm that can sling it around and it will make risks. And I think that is a good thing for Claypool this year. And that's a big key, is this year in 2021. And tight end, I swear, I feel like I'm getting him in every league because there are so many tight ends that are just going ahead of him. Kyle Pitts. I've even seen Noah Fant go ahead of him. I've seen Mark Andrews go ahead of him. I see all these tight ends go ahead of him, and I'm like, why is he being tight end 6, 56th overall on the board, which is over a round later than Kyle Pitts? And that is T.J. Hockenson. T.J. Hockenson is going to be one of my favorite tight ends for 2021, and the big reason, number 1, is targets. Why targets? Why is that important? Because if you get targets, you're likely to get yards and more touchdown opportunities, even though Detroit's not going to have very many there with Jared Goff. I just think, honestly, when we talk about if you have a guy that might get 10 targets a game at the tight end position, that could be T.J. Hockenson. He's not going to catch a ton of them. He's not going to catch all of them, but you're talking about a guy that could have over 100 catches in PPR. That is just incredibly... I mean, that's like twice the Tanyan. I mean, that's 2 Tanyans. Tanyan, who just had over 50 last year. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's getting 3 or 4 more points just based off of catches in full point PPR, even in half point PPR. You're talking about a couple points every single week just based on catches. And I could see a guy get 100 catches. You really could. You could really see a guy like T.J. Hockenson get that. And at tight end 6, I would rather have him, even with Detroit's, maybe he only gets 6 touchdowns. He gets 100 targets, you have over 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns, and you're talking about a tight end that has been top 5 basically mean, he was top 5 last year, so you're talking about tight end, and that could easily be his low side is probably tight end 5 again, and his high side probably behind if they're healthy. This is a big if Kelsey and Kittle. So you're talking about probably tight end 3. Waller, he's been banged up and injured. We don't know. Kyle Pitts is kind of a random grenade that you don't know if it's going to go off or not, and especially for his rookie year. And so I have Kyle Pitts in a league just because I wanted Kyle Pitts on my league, because you know what, it's fun to have that kind of lottery ticket. And it's not just a lottery ticket, it's actually like, I mean, it has a chance of hitting. It's a bigger chance of hitting than most. So again, now let's go to the Super Bowl prediction here. And I have the Steelers coming out of the AFC. I think the Steelers, I think KC is the easy one to predict, but I wanted to pick somebody a little bit different. I wanted to be a little bit contrary to what standard thoughts are, and so I believe that Steelers have a really good offense this year, and I like Claypool, I like Najee, and I like Deontay Johnson, and Juju's a fine wide receiver 3, but I really love their defense with Watt too. I think they're one of the only teams that could potentially stifle Pat Mahomes enough where they could beat him. You can never stifle him all the way, but if you talk about a team that, like Tampa Bay, you saw kind of the recipe. If you look at that, Pittsburgh has kind of those ingredients, and that's all you need is some of those ingredients to beat Kansas City. And so I think Pittsburgh is going to go in the AFC. In the NFC, it is kind of a wild card, but I'm gonna go with a guy that I keep saying that people keep saying that I look kind of like him, but I'm gonna go with Sean McVay and the Rams. I know it's a big if, but I love their defense. I love their defense, and I think Matthew Stafford's a huge game changer there. The biggest problem is, can they keep the ball with the running backs? Sony Michel, with Darrell Henderson. Can they run out the clock? And that's gonna be a big if. Matthew Stafford, again, never really being in those big games is going to be a big if, and that's the biggest wild card. I think I could easily be wrong. I mean, Rams could miss the playoffs; they really could. But I'm just going to kind of go with that's what I predict. And 5 weeks in the season, I can change it if I want. That's just what I'm guessing. I can't pick the Packers. I can't pick them. I just really can't. And they lost Bakhtiari for a while too, so that's going to be a little bit of a hit. And I don't want to go back to the well with Tom Brady, even though that's about it feels like it's about a 50% chance he's going to go there. I don't know what his career average is. I know that his career average going into the Super Bowl is better than Russell Westbrook's shooting percentage at a period of time, and he's only gone and won the Super Bowl again, so I'm assuming that it's just going to keep being higher. So that is what my predictions when it comes to the Super Bowl. I could be wrong, but it's just a guess. All right. I mean, there's people that right before playoffs start, people get it wrong, and a lot of people get it wrong. So again, this is Marcus with the Dynasty Football Dads. Peace out. Take care. I hope you enjoyed it. Now turn up.